DJ LeRoy, we're back.
NightWatchman. It's almost been a week since election time. You know, there have been some major results. I think you were even telling me about the Bronx has a black borough president, a female.
Well, let's wait and let's get it. Let's get our esteemed panel here so we can get into the details. But
Okay.
but suffice to say that New York City is under new management, and we want to talk about it.
Okay, no doubt. So, the first guest, of course, is one of the mainstays to Soul Lounge Primetime. Whenever we have an issue, we pick up the bat phone, and sure enough, who shows up? But Glenn Gilliam.
Dude, that intro, I'm going to have you travel around with me.
Yeah. Yes. He's like, he's got the Batmobile in the car wash right now.
Exactly.
Nice opening, though, Bob. New management. I like that.
No doubt.
Print that one.
And the next guest actually works under the current management, and you know what? Who knows what the future holds? That is none other than the esteemed Mr. James Archer. Bring him out. James, how you doing, buddy?
Welcome.
Hey, gentlemen, how you doing?
Good.
If Glenn is Batman, does that make me Robin? I really hope not.
No. You can be Nightwing. You might have been Robin once.
You don't want to be any of that. Including the new Superman, who I understand is batting on both sides now. What's he doing?
Hey, as you said, you can't make this stuff up. You can't.
Unfortunately,
yeah,
somebody is though. But yeah.
and then of course, to say that the particular guest who brings our discussion to another level, the one, the only, the honorable Professor Wallace Ford. What's up, buddy?
Golf clap for that.
Thank you. You read that just the way that I wrote it. Thank you.
well, needless to say, okay. So let's start this bad boy off. So I understand, at least from some of you may have even been working the polls. So Glenn, tell us about what happened on Tuesday.
Well, you know, I just have to say, number one, I did the training extremely late. I thought I was going to get in for maybe some of the early voting days, blah, blah, blah. I have a newfound respect, obviously, for the election day, the poll workers who do early voting, who handle the election day results. It is a tedious job in a lot of ways. The test is easy in the sense that they give you the answers because they want you to know what the heck's going on. But you have to know the full process, whether you're an information clerk or whether you're an inspector or a scanner. You kind of have to know everything that goes on in the process because you don't know where you're going to be deployed. So, you know, and it's a lot of tedium, but with the objective, of course, of maintaining the integrity of the situation, I guess, in terms of the ballots. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a scramble, especially at the close of the night. When everybody's been on their feet, at least, well, for the scanners, we were on our feet all day, which was like 5 a.m. until 10:30 that night. But, you know, you have a police officer who's there all day, and, you know, you have poll watchers who I think we had one or two that drifted in.
Okay.
You know, Republican, I don't know if any Democratic, but administrators there. So there's just a lot of a confluence of folks to keep an eye on what goes on. And I don't know how it goes on in other states, or I don't even, maybe other parts of this state, but it's very, very interesting. And my hat's off to the people who dedicate their time and effort to it. The toughest part is seeing people who vote against where your political affections go, and have them stare in your face, knowing that they don't really like you, but they're happy for your assistance when you have to tell them how to fill out the ballot and how to put it in the scanner. Anyway, but yeah, very, very, I mean, an interesting mix of folks that I got a chance to see in play, and my hat's off to the poll workers.
Beautiful. Thank you. Mr. Archer, I understand that you also you participated, I know, extensively in the primary process. Okay. As a matter of fact, you even did some canvassing for some of your candidates of choice. What were your perceptions in terms of the actual election? And any surprises here?
Not necessarily surprised, and I think we need some months to kind of see how things will pan out. But what I thought was interesting is that simultaneously, while you have this really, I think, move to kind of progressiveness in the council, you got I think 31 women who are slated to win. So this is the first time it's going to be a majority of women council. A lot of people of color, like real kind of new blood in the council. You also have more Republicans than we've had in the last session. So I think that there's a lot in flux, and we're going to see how things turn out in the next couple of months.
Gotcha. Professor, do tell, impressions.
Well, I think that it's a couple of things. One is that because the mayoral race was pretty much a foregone conclusion, as soon as the party candidates were confirmed, Democrat and Republican, there's not as much of attention probably until the last few days. Certainly with respect to the mayoral race, it was like that Eric Adams is going to win unless I think Edwin Edwards was the governor of Louisiana, who was indicted several times and still elected. And he said the only way I'll ever lose an election is if they find me in bed with a dead woman or a live boy. And so, but he still wound up going to prison, even without that particular. So Eric Adams was going to win. You pretty much knew that. But to the point of my colleagues here, I think that the down ballot races really are how government ultimately functions in this city. The mayor is the mayor, but you need to have see who else is in place there. I'll be interested to see what happens with respect to this new city council, because if I'm not mistaken, not everybody coming in is new to the city council. For example, Gail Brewer won a city council seat, but she's new in the sense that this is a new term for her as a city council member, since she was Manhattan Borough president for the last 8 years. So, and that brings it to question, and I'll just end with this: the term limits. I think is something that needs closer examination. On the one hand, you don't want people to be able to stay in office for life, but on the other hand, some continuity in government is really important. Experience in government is really important. And, many people will tell you in whatever position they hold is that they really don't get a handle on it until the second term. Okay. And what we have with the city council is when you're kind of figuring out what to do and what you can do, then you have to go. And I don't know that was, I think that's the law of unintended consequences, right? Because you said, yes, we don't want people to stay in office forever in the city council. It gets too hidebound and what have you. But on the other hand, you lose experience, you lose perspective. And, you think about it, the mayor's never been mayor before. Everybody in the city council just about has never been in the city council before. What could go wrong? Let
me ask you a question, Professor, right? Because I do agree with you on one hand. It takes a long time to learn to learn the ropes. It also takes a long time to hire your staff, get that staff, make the connections, everything. And especially when it comes to a new mayor with the changing administration, that alone, getting all his appointments is going to take months and months and months. But where do you draw the line? Because when you have senators and Congress members, like some of them are staying in office for 40 years, and you get no new blood, and you get people that are just relying on the brand name, and are basically complacent. Where do you draw the line?
Well, I tell you, like for example, let's we're talking about city council, maybe 4 terms or 3 terms, three, 4, and not ad infinitum or anything like that, but maybe just and staggered terms. Okay, so you don't have 50 new people coming in and everybody's trying to find out where the bathroom is all at the same time. And I think that would be a more reasonable way of trying to address that. I think I'd certainly agree with you that when you have members of Congress that have been there 20 or the Senate 20, 30, 40 years, there's a certain sense of entitlement that you just have to get. They're human, right? And a number of these people haven't touched a doorknob in years because somebody's or driven a car, right? Because somebody's always driving a car and opening the door for them. That you can't be as in touch with your constituency when you're in those kinds of positions. And again, I would just say that it's going to be I guess it would take would it take a constitutional amendment? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Well then that's not going to happen. We're not going to get any amendments to the Constitution in our lifetime, the way the country's split up at this point. And but certainly I think at the state and local level we need to have reasonable and thoughtful term limits, and the notion of staggered term limits. I think I don't know whose idea it was that we'll just have all the city council members leave at once and bring in a whole new 51, 52. City
I think we got about 40 something new ones right now. Not
40 something.
Yeah. And due to I don't want to wrongly cite the technical reasons, they're all going to be running in 2 years.
Wow.
It is due to, I think, a change in the charter. In 2 years, they're going to run, and then that will be for a 4-year term.
Okay.
Interesting.
But they all have to run? Is that what you're saying?
In 2 years, yes.
Okay. So basically, we're going to watch 2 years of campaigning, right? Because the campaign for office, you have to probably about 6 months into the job.
But that's the same thing for congressmen. I mean,
exactly.
It's just, which is ridiculous.
And theirs is continuous 2 years, every 2 years.
Yeah.
So they're constantly campaigning. You're absolutely
right.
right.
It's horrible. It really is.
It's never ending. Yeah, no, that's something that needs to. Well, there's a whole construct that needs to change, but that's definitely part of it. I mean, it's corruption is just inbred with those kinds of systems.
Yeah. NightWatchman, you about to say something?
Well, James had mentioned brand name recognition, and I was a little bit dismayed by the fact that Curtis Lewa got 28.8% of the vote, to be honest with you. Oh, and here's I ran this trivia question by DJ LeRoy yesterday. So Gail Brewer was Manhattan Borough President, returned to the city council. Trivia question: who was her opponent in this race?
It was it was Nancy Sliwa.
Yes, exactly.
Is she related?
Crushed her by like 90% of the voters.
Yeah, but I mean, like, who would run against Gail Brewer?
Gail Brewer is the brand name.
Well, you can't trust anyone named Curtis. I'm sorry. I apologize.
So Glenn, do talk in terms of Queens politics. So I see that you have an African-American borough president. Any other surprises there in some of the races?
Wait, he's African-American? I thought he was Caribbean or something. I'm sorry.
No, goodness. Here we go.
Look, look, I'll just say it's I probably shouldn't be on this panel. I have no idea who else, with the exception of Gregory Meeks. I have no idea who else is even involved. It's sad. They're just people who have been in place too long. And it's always amazing to me, and I'll just say I can't speak to a lot more than Donovan Richards, his election, his success. But why do these people want these jobs for so long? I mean, talking about term limits and what have you. And obviously it's because of power, for sure. But it's really a shame because, these are good salaries, no question. I'm not going to knock that. It's a decent income. You've got good benefits. But it seems, especially at the national level, I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor this, but it's really, I think that's something that's, I'm looking forward to Mr. Ford's update on our black think tank. I hope he might have something to toss it. No pressure, Wallace.
It's a good reminder because we try. There's folks who there's a I think it's called the Black Institute or something like that that's out there, and we made some outreach there. But we're going to do something within there's a City University of New York Black Faculty and Staff Association, and there's more focus on or attention being spent to on the whole, the politics as opposed to just the, inside baseball academia, because, we can't be in that bubble anymore. So
Sure.
I hope to have some more news about that, certainly within the quarter, in terms of how to get that going. And it's interesting that you mentioned this because, Black History Month is coming up, right, in February, and there's some people, present company included, who believe that we're in a time of unprecedented crisis, that it is not like it was in the 50s or 60s or any other point. Even Nixon got elected, oh my God, or Ronald Reagan got elected, oh my God, right? Or even Trump got elected, oh my, really God, but what we're seeing now is, a very concerted and strategic effort to deconstruct all of the things that we Black people have relied upon for any semblance of protection and any semblance of stability at all. And I'd be interested to see what happens with the Black History Month celebrations, just generally, whether that kind of crisis is really infused into whatever it is that we're doing, as opposed to, we're just going to have, as opposed to, the kinds of things. Okay, it's important to talk about heritage. It's important to talk about history because it is Black History Month. But we have to, if last thing I'll say, they say the best way to boil a frog is to put a frog into a pot of cold water. And then and the frog's just swimming around, and then you just turn up the heat a little bit. It's cold-blooded animal, so it doesn't really feel heat. And then at some moment it's cooked. We don't need to be the frog in the pot. But I'm just concerned that I'm not hearing that sense of urgency that we're talking about. We have people talking about defund the police, which may be, and I mean, I don't know, your listeners may or may not appreciate what I'm saying, but the dumbest political slogan I've heard in my 71 years walking on this planet. And I don't know.
I just got to jump in. I'm sorry, Wallace.
Sure. No, please.
This is just a trigger of immense. I don't know. Who's
yeah.
If I hear one more person,
okay,
frame the narrative about critical race theory or defund the police, I'm going to choke somebody because.
Lucky we're remote.
There wasn't one.
I'm glad we're on remote. Absolutely.
There wasn't one person talking about defund the police that were killing the Capitol Police on January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how an insurrection where they brought the gallows with them. They actually had a hangman's noose for the vice president of their party. How are we not talking about that every day and twice on Sunday? And to talk about critical race theory, to talk about defund the police, to talk about wokeism, to talk about people, the nonsense that Bill Maher is putting out with his boy John McWhorter, for all you McWhorter fans or whatever, it is absolutely insanity. And to think that we're going to be smacking these people, and Merrick Garland, where the freak is this guy? This guy is out to lunch. Thank you, Barack, for maybe he just belonged on the bench because clearly as Attorney General, he has not a clue. And I think we're in deep water because of folks who are in those positions who are not taking this thing as seriously as they should and taking positions that are clearly going to put us right back to square one. And these insurrectionists, sedition is obviously okay. That's part of the, you say, unintended consequences. This is ridiculous. And we're talking about wokeism and defund the police. That is just the biggest low. Brian Williams led his coverage talking about, the new mayor doesn't believe in defund the police. He's 20 years a cop and blah, blah. Get out of here with that nonsense. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, Glenn, take a breath.
Yeah. I'm just going to say that.
Well, let me just add that, when you talk to, I've lived in Harlem most of my adult life. I was born in Harlem. Since I got out of law school, virtually most of my adult life I've been in Harlem. And if I just walk out on the street and ask anybody, would you like to see fewer police? They'd look at me like I'm lost my mind. Of course not. So the message of defund the police, the slogan, the message behind defund the police, we know, means, a different allocation of resources,
Correct.
less use of violence, bringing in mental health specialists. I mean, there's a whole range of things that police really should not be doing. And that may mean a less budget for the law enforcement cop on the beat kind of stuff. But when you say I'm just talking about pure politics at this point.
Right.
Did anybody run on that campaign? Did anybody run on that platform?
They had a resolution in Minneapolis. Yeah.
Minneapolis. Yeah, they killed George Floyd. I mean, we all saw it.
No. But the resolution to literally defund the police was defeated 2-1.
Yep, 2-1.
I mean,
that's right.
Yeah, and to your point, Glenn, and I think it's a real one, which is that in the political arena, you have to messaging is important. And the Republicans, and particularly the right wing of the right wing proto-fascist conservatives, what they've done is take things like critical race theory, and taken things like defund the police, just these slogans, and said, you see, these people on the other side are looking to just, turn this place into, Armageddon or what have you. And so, critical race theory has nothing to do with what these people are talking about. We all know that. Okay, but it sounds like something that I, as a white person, don't want. Because
but there's video of white people with literally flagpoles saying "Blue Lives Matter," killing blue lives, killing police. I mean,
there's no doubt.
Contextually, how do you even balance that? Saying, "Oh, these people are talking about defund the police. We're just killing them." So we can overthrow the election,
and that's what race.
What's our messaging? I mean, come on.
Well, I think our messaging has to be different, certainly. But we've lost the high ground in many instances in these discussions because who's out there trying to explain the fact that it is I've written about this in my blog. TheWallaceFord.com, by the way, which is to say, when are we going to talk about the fact that, to get on the offensive, if you will, where there's nothing to defend about this, because when they say, well, it's going to make white children teaching this kind of history is going to make white children feel bad. Black children have been made to feel bad by what's in the curriculum of public school for over 100 years.
For years, that's right.
And we've had to resist that and fight against that. And in Germany, they teach the Holocaust. German children aren't ashamed of being German. In Japan, they talk about the atrocities committed by the Japanese Imperial Army. They are not ashamed of being Japanese. And so the fact that 10 of the first 12 presidents of the United States were slave owners shouldn't make a white child feel bad. It should make them understand that, yes, this country has evolved somewhat from there, but that's where it began. That's where it began. Yes. And so we don't have to defend critical race theory. I think we ought to be on the aggressive side. Yes, damn it, it should be taught. Truth is important. Certainly in history, science. We don't want myths and fables. And so it's okay to say that it's okay. It is important to say that genocide and land theft and slavery are part and parcel of the American tradition. And no apologies for it. And if you can't take that, then you want to teach a lie.
But the only problem with that is you conversely have a whole broadcast network devoted to simple racist narrative, simple pejorative narrative about misogyny and everything else.
Yes.
Fox News is an anathema to anything talking about news.
So that's right. You can't call them news. You're right.
I mean, until you find some way to eradicate. Well, look, the bottom line is, the folks who have been given the free use of our airwaves need to be categorized into infotainment and have them pay for those airwaves, and they can underwrite almost everything else we need: alternative energy, political campaigns, education, because they're making zillions of dollars and have absolutely no responsibility in terms of informing the general public about anything useful. I mean, if it's based on advertising revenues and ratings, why should they care? And they're never going to police themselves. So we've got the construct for media, which is the most influential platform in the country has to be changed. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
we
Well,
treat.
well, that pesky First Amendment, of course, allows them to do that.
But use
just
of the airwaves is a choice. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, no, that's true. But it's a choice, and there's licensing involved. But the issue I think is that we don't get the kind of message that you're talking about right now, Glenn, and that we're all talking about on the show. It does not get enough coverage. It doesn't get. I mean, whenever I was just on Channel 5 the other day talking about. They asked me to talk about Eric Adams being elected, and most of what I said was left on the cutting room floor because they just wind up doing. You have to speak in sound bites in those interviews because that's all you really have a chance to get across.
Did you say defund the police? Well, did you say, okay.
No, I don't think we got to that. I don't think we got to that.
Well, Mr. Archer, I did note
Please.
that you were about to weigh in on something. Do tell.
Oh, that was long ago. We have since moved past.
Well, let's go back to because we really kind of strayed from what we were talking about, which is what happened in our elections here.
Yes.
Although I think that what Professor Ford's comments about the serious nature of what's going on with education and these issues are
democracy
right.
under siege. Yeah.
So back to our local races. So we were talking about, and I'll bring Glenn up to speed since he still doesn't know who won. So we talked about Donovan Richards in Queens, Vanessa Gibson, first Black female borough president of the Bronx. Antonio Reynoso, borough president of Brooklyn, Mark Levine in Manhattan, and Vito Fasala.
Wow.
Vito Fasala, who was a congressman, by the way. But go ahead. In Staten Island.
And Brad Lander as controller. Don't know who he is, but congratulations.
Brooklyn once again. But go ahead.
He's a Wallace council member.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Jamani Williams, also Brooklyn. And here's just a little query. So we do have Jamani Williams, who at first announced that he was doing an exploratory look at the governor's race. We certainly now have Tish James, who says that she is indeed running. And we have, I believe, Bill de Blasio, who's also made the announcement that he's looking at it.
And we have the current sitting governor who I think intends to stay in the seat. So.
And then there's Tom Suozzi also from Long Island.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Tom Suozzi. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So lots of people have.
So do tell. Give me your thoughts, Professor.
Well, quickly, I think it's accurate to say that the Attorney General James has been preparing to run for governor for a while. Those of us who've had an opportunity to follow her career know that she's very focused on an upward trajectory for her, for her career, and that's how you get there. Typically, you don't just get hit by lightning. You have to prepare. And she was in the city council. She was public advocate. And she's attorney general. She has a statewide network. And, it made a lot of sense for her to run. Her conundrum was prior to all the revelations with respect to Andrew Cuomo, if he was going to run for re-election, running against him would be a really uphill climb. When he his career crash burned and died, that seemed to leave an open pathway for her. Nobody thought that Kathy Hochul was really, who's Kathy Hochul? Has anybody ever even heard her speak? For years, and so I think it came as a big surprise when not only did she start speaking, but she really took charge. People forgot that she was the Erie County executive, and she's no joke. And very, very early on, she said, "I'm running I'm running to be elected in my own right." And that kind of really, put a marker on the ground for anybody else who was thinking about running, because she literally is an incumbent. And enough time to really make her mark. As you've seen her, they're now going to do some additional funding at Penn Station the other day. She said, we're going to rename Penn Station after a prominent New Yorker. It won't be Cuomo. We know that, whoever it might be. And so my concern was initially when I heard that Jamani Williams, Jamani Williams and Letitia James are both running, that they would, split up the black vote. And the black vote is important in Rochester and Albany and New York, of course, and Westchester. But New York's a big damn state. And the black vote is, if it's split up too much, neither of them would probably win. But now, as you just pointed out, Curtis, you have all of these candidates in play right now. And so, it's like jump ball, so we'll see what happens. But I think it is probably good that we have some real competition for governor instead of coronations. And, whoever comes out of this is definitely going to be, I think, a positive person. I don't know what the Republicans are going to do at this point in terms of governor, but I think that the competition ought to be good for all of us.
Thoughts in terms of, let's say, the naming of Brian Benjamin as the lieutenant. A good move on her part?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm sure all of us have seen her with then Senate, Lieutenant Governor Benjamin at a number of events. Where if her lieutenant governor was a white person from upstate, I think it would have been a very different set of optics. I mean, she's clearly a player. She's no dummy. And I think anybody who I'd ask anybody. Name me 2 lieutenant governors aside from David Patterson in the last.
Oh, dog!
Yes. And I mean, Malcolm Wilson was Nelson Rockefeller's lieutenant governor, and I can't name another lieutenant governor. But Kathy Hochul, made her mark immediately. And anybody wanted to discount her was making a big mistake, and I think the competition will be good. I think the competition will be good.
How does let's say Bill De Blasio translate upstate? Anybody care to weigh in? Please.
Is that a serious question? You don't translate downstate either.
Okay.
You see how he did in the Iowa primaries. Remember that? I don't know who's advising him.
That's about exactly what I was about to say. I think he's getting bad advice. Every politician needs somebody to pull you aside and say, look, this is doable. This is not doable. Maybe you shouldn't do this. But I also felt like there was nothing else for him to do but try to go for governor, because what does he do from here other than, I don't think he's ready to leave the public stage, but there's,
but the stage has left him, right?
Yeah.
So do tell. Now we've made some history here in Manhattan DA. So do tell our thoughts about Alvin Bragg continuing the investigation on the Trump organization. Anybody?
Well, I think. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I got to know Alvin Bragg a bit during the campaign, and one of the things I was struck by is that, and he was smart in terms of campaign messaging. He didn't trumpet this out, but he really is of the ilk of the new wave of district attorneys that we're seeing around the country, who are truly progressive. There's I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name now, became the attorney, chief prosecutor, district attorney in Philadelphia. But there's so much. I beg pardon?
Larry Krasner.
Yes, and he's been a model in terms of look. There's when I'm teaching at these courses at Medgar Evers, we talk about the amount of discretion that exists in the criminal justice system, and so the police have a tremendous amount of discretion. I can arrest you, or I can give you a warning and tell you to keep going. Okay, but when you get to the prosecutor can say this case is. I almost forgot they were on the radio. Yes, this case is worthless, or we're gonna prosecute at this level, that level, or go for the max. Just bail policy alone is something that has really entrapped Black people for years in terms of the prosecutorial discretion. Brother Archer, James, you may know the number of prosecutors who left office in Philadelphia. Resigned because the new prosecutor, but it was scores of them, right? Resigned because of his policies, because they wanted to be tough, and he didn't think he was tough, that kind of stuff. So Alvin Bragg comes from that ilk. Okay, I can't say he's going to be exactly like this person, the Philadelphia DA, but he believes in serious reform of the criminal justice system, and not he's not. Don't judge me by how many people I send to prison. Okay, it's not the way he's going about it. And as far as going after Trump, Trump has something to worry about. That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, I think the discretion has always been the problem. And the minute you have a statement like you can indict a ham sandwich, I think we're clear that anything goes as far as law enforcement is concerned. I mean, the judges, as well as the prosecutors, as well as the police and these detectives. We saw that with the Central Park Five, and I mean, what's done in these cases is it's just abhorrent, and obviously New York is better than a lot of places. There's no remuneration in many places. Folks can spend a lifetime on death row. I mean, getting into the criminal justice disparities are just, there's just so much that needs to be overhauled. I'm happy for Alvin Bragg, and I hope he brings that sensibility because I do like that Philly DA. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. I'm sorry. Just one quick thing. But speaking about other jurisdictions, Glenn, the Ahmaud Arbery trial right now that's going on as we speak. Okay,
That's right.
The population demographics in that county are something like 70% white, 30% black, roughly. The jury was chosen, talking about discretion.
Sure.
11 white men, 11 white people, 1 black person.
Sure.
Okay.
Wow.
So that exactly, so that shows you what discretion can do. I if they get a conviction out of this, I will if I had a hat to eat, I would eat my hat. It's not going to happen. They're not going to convict these guys. They're just not.
Wow.
I mean, we're going to move it to Simi Valley. It's just the same old. And, sadly, I just don't see public representatives fighting for those things. It's just, it's very disconcerting. And, maybe there's going to be more new squads coming along that are going to bring some heat to these things. But it's not a good place.
NightWatchman. What are you
I
going
was
to say?
just about to say regarding Alvin Bragg that he won with a very commanding margin, a lot stronger than Eric Adams. And quite in fact, I think he was like 88 or 90%, something like that, and which is good because he was certainly eminently qualified for this position, and I think he's going to do a great job. And
who did he go up against? I don't even know who his opponent was. I'm sorry.
Does it matter?
No, not really. But I mean, the fact that he dominated is interesting. Just, to the extent that
I think it was a woman, but I'm not. I'm pretty sure it was.
No problem.
It was a guy named Thomas Kenneth, a Republican.
Is it right? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I was going to say is that I'm glad to see a fellow Harvard Law School brother is now going to be the district attorney. But it's a little known fact. Right as we speak right now, there's more Harvard Law School has produced more black lawyers than any school in the country. Okay, because it's so damn big. Is what it is. Okay, it is the largest in terms of population, student body, law school in the country, and they've been churning them out for. Since around the time I got there, and that's like 1970. So you do the math, and and that's
if we were
why
just to go based on merit, based on scores, it would be mostly Asians, right? No, I'm sorry. That's another debate.
Glenn, are you starting something?
I'm so tired.
Well, see, it's hard. It's hard to do 3-4 years of prep. For the law school LSAT exam, right? That's what it is. Of course, is that if you spend 3 or 4 years prepping for an exam, yes, you're going to do better than me. It's one reason why we need to have obviously a very different system. When we're talking about those things.
Well, I'm going to digress for a little bit. Here goes. So, of course, James, you are acutely aware of this. That your particular boss did away with the specialized exam for the specialized high schools. And any thoughts, anybody?
Always back to Stuyvesant, isn't it?
You can't help themselves. But when you look at the numbers, I think there were like in the last Stuyvesant high school class, there were like 8 black kids or something. It's unacceptable. It's clearly not working. I don't know if there's a perfect solution for what should be there instead, but doing away with the specialized high schools test was long overdue.
Gotcha.
And if I can just plug my alma mater for a minute, our numbers aren't any better than yours. We are technically with a Hunter test or a separate test, which is taken in 7th grade, but they have few Black or Hispanic people either. And these are the schools that provide such an escape. Like getting into Hunter was one of the best things I did as a kid, and it allowed me to, it basically gave me such a fast track into college. And I think that, had I been forced to go to my district public school instead, my life would have been markedly different. So, when you're talking about these schools that are, I think 60% East Asian and 35% white, and then a little 5% for everyone else, it's not really serving the city at large.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The problem with the standardized tests, I think, is that somebody figured out how to game the system. Which is that if everybody was looking at these tests with some I remember my prep for SATs 100 years ago was making sure I had sharpened pencils, and that was pretty much it in terms of preparation. Now, I remember talking with Gail Brewer once about this, and she said, look, part of my constituency is Chinatown, and the kids there are preparing something like 4 or 5 hours a week for years. Okay. And so they're going to do better on that. So, I agree with James that, if that's going to be the criteria, then we need to get rid of that, because, the standardized test does not tell you who's the best student. It doesn't certainly going to tell you who's going to contribute the most to the interplay within a classroom. All it tells you is that who takes a standardized test better, So we have to have different criteria. It's going to be more subjective. Okay, but that's okay. Everything, most, how any of us get hired or any of us get promoted is so much of it is subjective, right? Once we get out of this standardized test maze that people find themselves in, students find themselves in.
Well, I definitely agree with you, Professor, on some level, but I do not, under any circumstances, want to penalize my Asian brothers who have bought into the system that, hey, if I do well on this exam, I'll go to a great school and my life will be better. It will be significantly changed. James, you were actually telling me that you were having a little bit of pushback with an elected official in Flushing regarding said matter. So I definitely, like I say, I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. We have to come up with a solution that addresses all facets.
And it's hard because, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, if there was a school, if there was this test that benefited and overrepresented Black folk, 60%, we would keep that, as it was benefiting our community and our kids, we would say keep that, and so you can't really be upset with people when their community is being benefited to such a great extent.
Yeah. Well, but see, it is, I was going to say, I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way, but it is almost close to cheating is what we're talking. It's not the test. Okay, if it was just the test, fine. But people have found a way to game the system. It's not just our Asian brothers and sisters. Obviously, well-to-do white people are doing the same thing as well, and not so well-to-do. But it's a matter of resources. And if you prepare. You said you're changing the rules. Yeah, well, the rules are you can't cheat. Okay, and preparing for an exam for 5 years is akin to cheating. Okay, it just is, particularly when not everybody has the opportunity to do the same thing. And so I think I hear what you're saying, Curtis, in terms of you're changing the rules on us. Yes, we're changing the rules because too many people are taking advantage of this loophole, which is that think about the millions and millions of dollars that are being generated around these test prep companies. Okay, that didn't exist. That didn't exist. Yeah. And to your point, James, if those test prep companies would provide free or low cost preparation services in our communities, then I would certainly think a little differently, because then it's on the parents, right? To make sure the kids do it. But most people can't afford $500 a month or whatever it is for these kinds of things. That's $6,000 a year. For 5 years to prep for school and for an exam. And I just don't think that's fair. It's not fair, you know. And
Gotcha.
it's also not an accurate. It's a lazy way of selecting students. You know, I mean, what about teachers' recommendations? Okay, what about interviews with the students?
Full body of work. I completely agree.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Very good. Very good. So let me go back to our elections. Would you say that, if I throw it out there, that Republicans look at the long game in terms of really putting in place their minions on the local level, thus having an effect on the national level? So as you said, Professor, democracy under siege, under attack. What will come out of, let's say, the first 4 years of the Biden administration, or maybe, let's say, make it to the midterms? What is some of your predictions that you see will happen?
Yeah, well, again, history is important, and when I'm teaching this constitutional law class, I'd make sure students understand that the Constitution of the United States, 10th Amendment, says that any power of the federal government comes from the states. It's the only country that I know of in the world which has that kind of system in place, which is why we have 50 different school systems, for example, in 50 states, as opposed to one set of curricula for the entire country. So what the Republicans obviously did, and it's not just this election, of course. This goes back like 30 plus years. Is that they said, if that's how the power process works, we're going to start at the local level. Those are school boards, city councils. We're going to do, those are not the bright, shiny objects, right? You don't see CNN carrying school board elections or city council elections in Omaha. Okay, but they take those seats, and then they go to the legislature, and then they have the state houses. And right now they have something like 30. They control about 30 state houses across the country. Okay, and what does that mean? What does that mean? That means that the 50 Republican senators represent 38% of the United States population. We are already living under minority rule, okay, and what they've also done is focus on the judiciary. Not a bright, shiny object for most people either. But Donald Trump, he didn't know what he was doing, but he just told the people from the Federalist Society, "I'll appoint whoever you tell me to." And you had, again, proto-conservative, semi-fascist folks all over the federal judiciary for our collective lifetime, okay, because those are all lifetime positions, and so the deck is stacked, is my point right now. And now with these new laws being in place that will go into effect next year in the 2022 election with respect to voter access and who gets to count the vote and who gets to say legitimized votes that are ultimately tabulated, you will see a rehearsal for what's going to happen in 2024. And I'm not sanguine about this at all. I think that it's not that anybody missed what was going on, but the people who we call ourselves progressives, or certainly not proto-fascists, just really didn't pay enough attention to what was happening at the local and state level, and we're paying the price for it now. We're paying the price for it. So I'm very concerned that the Biden administration, if the Democrats can't get out of this circular firing squad mode, we are just really toast. I mean, the fact that Joe Manchin, I wonder, when did Joe Manchin get elected president of the United States? Because I could have sworn Joe Biden was president, but Manchin is saying, well, if I don't get X, if I don't get Y, I'm just going to sink the whole ship. And it's not like the days of Lyndon Johnson or Ronald Reagan or Dick Cheney, who was really the president, who could call up the senator and say, I'll make sure you never get a pothole filled in your state again. You can't do that anymore. So it is. These are difficult times. These are difficult times. They must pass these two bills to even have a chance for next year. But even if they have a great record to run on, hear what I said, right? Which is that they have a way now of controlling the election outcome. Okay, and if they don't like the election outcome, they can invalidate the election. And then you can take it to the courts, and guess who's in the courts? Okay, the Amy Coney Barretts of the world. Okay, so it's this is not good.
Gotcha. James, you were about to say something?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I echo what Professor Ford is saying, and I just think that it's base level to expect that we're going to see any change going forward with the volume of platforms spewing out, these right wing, these, the Fox News mantra, which any platform especially in mainstream media. I mean, that's how they did Barack. I mean, to the extent that, obviously Fox wanted to help destroy his administration. They got the mainstream other partners to say, wait a second, they're getting the great ratings. They're getting all of this attention. We should start doing, and all they needed to do was say, well, you guys are giving him, carte blanche. You guys are, the liberal elites are hooking Barack up. Oh, okay, so let's smack him down and act more like Fox. And all we get are satellites like Sinclair Broadcasting and Hate Radio making fortune off of dividing up the country, and basically it's just a blood sport. I mean, it's so we can't have the likes of mainstream media doing the irreparable damage they're doing and expect, especially with our education system being what it is, people don't make unfortunately good choices because they don't have good information and they're not really well informed to begin with. Critical analysis is a difficult thing if you're not taught very well. So, like I say, what James talked about earlier, getting into Hunter is the difference between, life and death in a lot of ways. That's the sad part. That's the disparaging part, is that we can't rely on the public school education system to provide the standard that people can really operate intelligently and make good choices. And then when you have overwhelming advertising and media platforms, and then social media is just another bullhorn that's doing a lot of damage. So I think we've got to galvanize on some basic level a fight against this media, because to me, media is going to be the destruction of this democracy and probably all other Western democracies if we think they're valuable, because they have too much power and influence. And so we've got to find some way to stem the tide of that, or it's just the long game that the Republicans are playing. They don't play a long game. They skim off the top every time they get a chance. They get in power. They give all their friends, the 1% and corporations, all the tax relief they can get, hook up all their other friends and give them judge appointments if they can. I mean, they're just doing the same old thing. They play the long game only because they've got one constituency. The Democratic Party looks like the rest of America because, everybody's fighting because that's the only other party that actually includes everybody else. When you only have one constituency to be concerned about, you can look like a bunch of old white guys, but they can get shit done because they've got one objective. I mean,
they can get stuff done.
I'm sorry.
Yes, absolutely. NightWatchman, go ahead. What are you going to say too?
Oh, I mean, I agree with all these comments. We're definitely in a precarious position. But here in New York, I mean, the underscore of all this is that, we've got more Black elected officials on the city and state level than I can ever recall. So I think we have a window that we have to be active in terms of making sure that our agenda is heard here. When I was voting, I felt like I wasn't just voting for me. I felt like I was voting for Texas. I was voting for Georgia. I was voting for those other states. And I was very emboldened by the fact that I could just walk a half a block away and go in, and there was no interruptions. There was no process that was preventing me from doing my civic duty and making my voice heard. And so that has resulted in a number of these very qualified candidates who have won on all levels. But if we don't do something with it, having a bunch of people in place is not, in and of itself, is not the victory. It's all about what they actually get done. So I'm hoping that we can take this opportunity to continue to push forward for equity on all levels here in New York, and the fact that these elected officials were voted in areas like we're not a minority in a lot of different places, and many other people besides us voted for these candidates. So I'm hoping that we have enough of a positive progressive coalition to make the choices that we need to make and get some things done, because New York has to counterbalance like what's going on in the South and in the Southwest. So
Yeah,
those are my
absolutely.
thoughts.
Yeah, well, the thing is, and I agree with you, Senor Night Watchman, that I agree absolutely with what you're saying. The numbers aren't enough, right? We've had a black person who's the head of the Senate and black person who's the head of the Assembly in New York New York State for several years. We've had a black and Latino coalition in the city council has been significant for many years. Yet we have the atrocities of Rikers Island. And nobody can seem to figure that out. It just cannot be that hard to say that no human being should have to. I don't care what they're charged with. And we have to keep in mind they were charged and not convicted. So therefore, they are innocent until proven guilty, right? And so you have innocent people, legally innocent people, living in just horrific conditions. I mean, Stone Age conditions, and this is with all of the leadership that you talked about. Bill De Blasio was elected as a progressive and reelected as a progressive. Appointed not one, not two, but three white police commissioners, one right after the other. When Benjamin Tucker was the first deputy commissioner there, who was qualified enough to work for two presidents of the United States, but obviously not qualified enough for Bill de Blasio to put him in charge of the police department. Now, Eric Adams, I understand, is appointing Kim Royster, black woman, to be the new police commissioner. And now it's going to get interesting because that cohort in the folks who live in Bell Harbor and the folks who live out in Rockland County and commute into New York every day from Suffolk County, who are part of the NYPD. Now we're going to see how committed they are to law and order when they have to take their law, when they have to follow the law and the orders issued by a black woman. I'm going to watch this space.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
So we're at that point. We've got to wrap up the show, but we've got some great perspective on things, and particularly those last comments. I didn't know that we were looking at the first, probably the first female police commissioner and first female black commissioner. So that's another
win-win.
But last time we had a black police commissioner, of course, was Lee Brown. That was 1992 was when he left.
That's right.
So absolutely.
Well, gentlemen, we'll do a go around. Last closing remarks, Glenn.
Yeah, no. Thanks for including me. I while I'm buoyed about what Bob was speaking about, obviously having come through this election with a new slate of black leadership, I'm curious about how well they'll coalesce, if they have, hopefully, coordinating agendas and positive agendas for the black community as well as the New York community. But you look around the country and you look at Virginia, you look at some of these other places where the projected narrative is always that the Democrats are in trouble, no matter what. As soon as we get the presidency, the country's in trouble. The Democrats are in trouble because they're taking their eye off the ball, or they've got like say circular fire going on. I'm concerned about the rest of the country, and I'm just praying that that Eric Adams' team is up to the task, and I'm excited about it. Looking forward to it, and thanks, guys. We'll see you in a few years, I guess.
Beautiful. James, do tell.
I think that the election day was interesting because simultaneously you had this kind of progressive wave in city council, the DA race, borough presidents, and then you also nationally, we got hit pretty hard. So I think I just want to echo a statement before, is that we in New York State and New York City have to do our best to counterbalance what's happening on a national stage, because I don't want to feed into the narrative that the Democrats are screwed, but the Democrats are so screwed. We are going to get hit in a year, and I don't think there's much we can do about it. So we have to do what we can here. State and city government is still very effective at doing a lot of things. So we need to do what we can do here to counterbalance what's likely to be a bloodbath.
Beautiful, beautiful. Professor,
yes.
Take us out.
Yeah, just a couple of things. One is that soon after the primary, I had an opportunity to speak to Eric Adams. Actually, he came to my birthday celebration there at Sedivani, and I just pitched to the idea. I said, as you look to build your administration, you could do well to think about that book, The Team of Rivals. And when Abraham Lincoln became president, he appointed several of the people who ran against him for president, and arguably one of the best cabinets ever in the United States history, which was needed because of the Civil War.
I'm sorry.
Well, picky, right? He told me he had read the book 5-6 times. Okay, so I'm hoping that he will take up on, because people like Sean Donovan and the outgoing controller, Scott Stringer, I think would be excellent people in city government. Catherine Garcia already got appointed by Kathy Hochul. Okay, now I don't have any room for Andrew Yang in that mix, but again, there's several other people that Maya Wiley and so on that could, I think, help. First of all, they could. They would be on the inside instead of the outside, throwing rocks, and as well, I think would help to provide a excellent judiciary, excellent part of an excellent team. But we will see. The second thing I want to mention, though, is that in all this business about watching the judiciary, right? The Supreme Court, as we speak, is hearing a case involving a New York state law, which says you need a permit to carry a concealed weapon in public. Okay,
Wow.
The NRA wants to get rid of that. And you have a 6-3 proto-conservative majority on the Supreme Court, which is almost certainly going to strike down this New York state law. So even though we're in New York State, we're going to be subject to this federal guidelines. And how would you like to be on the subway and you don't know who's carrying a concealed weapon, on the subway car, right?
Dangerous.
And that's what we have. I don't know if New York City law would still apply, which is you can't do it in New York City, but it's not good times. But I agree with what James was saying and Glenn was saying as well. We're in time of tremendous challenge, and I don't know how often we have to ring the alarm bell before people really get wise to it. But the time is not our friend. Time is not our friend.
Gotcha. Night Watchman, take us home.
So you've been listening to Soul Lounge Primetime on WHCR 90.3 FM. You can also find us live on Facebook and YouTube. Like and subscribe, follow us, and come back next week for more insightful commentary, and maybe you might even hear some music. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
Take
Guys,
care, everyone.
Gentlemen,
Okay.
thank you, guys. Take
Thank
care.
you.